Hello, and welcome back to Gay by Gay. My name's Adam.
I'm JJ.
And today, we're going to talk about family in honor of Family Day
Yes.
in BC.
Our favorite manufactured holiday.
Oh, God. I don't know anything about your family, and I feel like you've teased some stories about your family. Not to turn this into a therapy session, but we are on a couch.
I have quite a good family. I have a very small family. So I have my father, who's from Toronto,
Okay.
and my immigrant mother, who is from Holland.
Okay.
She immigrated to this country in the 60s, grew up in Nova Scotia, moved to Toronto, and then moved to BC. And my father moved to BC, and they married each other there. And then they had me and my sister. My parents are basically largely estranged from their siblings, so I didn't really grow up with lots of cousins and whatnot. I have one sister, 2 years younger. She lives in Dubai, of all places. She's a flight attendant. Give me the 5-second summary.
Well, I have a large French sprawling family. So my dad is from, well, I think he spent a large portion of his life in Red Deer, but I believe he may actually be from, or his family is from a place called Zenon Park in Saskatchewan, which is one of those French communities, like pockets of French-speaking population in Saskatchewan. My mom is from Taber, Alberta, and so they moved to Lethbridge when they got married. They had 2 daughters and then me. I don't think I was planned. I won't say I was a mistake.
How many years betwixt
We're
the 3
each
kids?
4 years apart.
Wow.
My dad's side of the family is very large. He's one of, I think, 7 kids. And they all have a lot of kids themselves, so I have lots of cousins that I grew up with.
I was always so jealous when I was growing up of kids that had cousins, because it just seemed like they were so close with their cousins, and they'd always be playing like video games or going to Disneyland with the cousins.
You got to see pretty intimately how other kids were being raised by your aunt and uncle. My dad grew up quite religious, but didn't end up being very religious by the time I was born. But some of his brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles, have remained quite religious, or, have had their own journeys. But to witness my very close cousins being raised in a mega church, and going to those periodically with them, and kind of seeing these 2 perspectives at a very young age.
Do you notice a real difference between the Beauchenes and then whatever your mother's family people are?
My grandma and grandpa were the principal of the school and a teacher at the same school. And my mom went into nursing, and they just have this very they're very logical, very level people. And not to say that my dad's family isn't, but they're far more impulsive and passionate.
So when a lot of Beauchenes get together, the fireworks begin?
I think that's safe to say.
My mother has a lot of siblings, but when they immigrated to this country, they really sort of lived in this Dutch bubble, in rural Nova Scotia and then rural Ontario, where they only hung out with other Dutch people, and they were very religious as well. And my mother really, when she moved to this part of the country, she really sort of opted out of that lifestyle and didn't really have much to do with her siblings.
So tell me about your relationship with your sister.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, my sister and I were not very close, and I think that, she wouldn't disagree with that. Sometimes, you just kind of have, a quiet, respectful, dignified, adult-to-adult relationship, and you love the other person, you're interested in their life, and you want what's best for them. I do think that that's sometimes a problem I have with my sisters. I think she kind of has a sort of stereotypical conception of what she imagines a family to be like, and how a brother and sister are supposed to get along, and the kinds of things they're supposed to do, and sometimes gets frustrated when our relationship doesn't seem to conform to that. But it sounds like you, with your sisters, probably have closer to...
No, but my sisters and I don't. It's not that we have, a whole lot in common. We actually probably pretty, by the book, exemplify the birth order theory. My oldest sister was kind of the overachiever, did very well in school. Middle sister was probably more on the rebellious side, maybe as a result of that. And then I'm the perfect combination of the 2. I was not the most spoiled.
I'm sure you were.
I was not. No, the firfirstborn was. Are you kidding?
No, the baby and the only...
I'm the most liked.
Yeah, well, obviously.
We were talking about when we were speaking about coming out, through that process, I found I got a lot closer to my whole family. My sister leads the Queer Straight Alliance at the high school, and now they are having kids, which is something that's never been on my radar, and it's another big difference.
When you become an uncle, what does that feel like?
It makes me feel guilty that I'm not there to be an uncle like I had uncles. I've never had a huge interest in having kids. I think I might at some point, but so I get to kind of live vicariously through them, and also pressure's off. Like parent-wise, whatever trepidation there was when I came out, they're like, oh, we got 4 grandkids now.
What's your parents' jobs? Did we mention that?
My dad is a commercial real estate agent, and
Okay.
my mom was a pediatric asthma nurse. They're very like game of life jobs. What does your dad do?
My dad has had a lot of different jobs. He worked as a parole officer, actually, that was sort of what I grew up with him doing.
For some reason, I was trying to think of something not in the public sector, because I have in my, every time I'm guessing something about you, I assume it's just conservatism.
Well, no, my father is very conservative, and I think working in the public sector has helped make him conservative.
He saw the ugly side of it.
Yeah, I don't think I get my political views from my parents at all, but this has become something that my father and I can bond on.
Is your mom a teacher?
Yes. Yeah, my mom has a weird job, actually. She was she still is, a high school hairdressing teacher. You know, I suppose this was a good thing from the perspective of having a gay kid, because if there was, certainly my mother was very familiar with the gay community at that point. And to be the baby and to be the only of a certain gender, I feel is like, those are 2 big marks in your favor in your parents' eyes.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, because you didn't have to get any of the hand-me-downs, or you didn't have to get any of the old toys, because like you were the exciting boy.
Mistake.